Bon dia, Sr. Christian.
Bon dia, pa.
What's going on, brother?
Welcome back, man.
How you doing, man?
Nice little time going on there.
Oh, thanks, man.
Looking good.
Thanks. I got some sun, man.
Is it good?
I got some sun.
It's good.
Buddy, you got two happy guys here today.
Yes, very happy.
Very happy. Turn that down a little bit. Bon dia, everyone. Welcome to Tudo Tuga, the Everything Portuguese Soccer Podcast. I am Mitch Freire.
I'm Christian Ferreira. Senhor Adão is in the mix here
And
too.
Senhor Adão, Toninho Teclas, in the background. Buddy, big week.
Huge. Finally.
That's okay?
Oh, buddy, I was floating Thursday night. I was fucking floating. And we haven't had many of those moments this year, but doing good, man. How about yourself?
Buddy, it's been good, man. nothing to complain about. That's for sure. It's been really good. We've got a ton to get into today, guys. It's been a little bit since we've come to you guys, so we're gonna review a bunch of stuff. Obviously, gonna review Champions League results for both Porto and Benfica over the last couple of weeks. We're gonna talk about Sporting's big week in the Europa League. We'll wrap up and talk a little bit about the Liga games coming up this weekend. Some big games, including Benfica's that is about to start in about a half an hour here. And then, of course, we'll finish off with the big, much anticipated call-up from our Espanol amigo Roberto Martinez.
Portuñol.
And the Portuñol call-up. His first call-up as selecionador of Portugal. We will talk about his call-ups and what we think about that and who we think maybe should have been called up that wasn't. But anyway, we will jump right to it, guys. First off, looking at the Champions League this week, Porto was taking on Inter on Tuesday at home. They needed a result after losing 1-0 at the San Siro in Milan, and they dominated, man. They dominated. Porto failed to register a goal against the Nerazzurri at home, despite a ridiculously dominating performance. 68% possession, 21 total shots, 2 of which hit the post and the crossbar.
In the same play.
Towards the end of the game. Cedric Conceição finally broke his silence after the game because he, of course, in famous Cedric Conceição ways, hasn't been going to the press conferences lately. But he voiced some frustration over the fact that his efforts, he doesn't feel like, have been recognized and appreciated in Portugal, despite Porto having their fair play restrictions and regardless of those fair play restrictions, Porto still performing the way that they have, both in Portugal and in Europe, and he just feels underappreciated and under-recognized, and that's kind of been the reason why he's been silent a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I don't know if you agree with this. My personal opinion on why he hasn't been recognized as much is because of stuff like this. His little temper tantrums at the end, his ways that he can't take a loss every single time they lose or don't get points. It's everybody else's fault but theirs. I think just that attitude alone sort of tarnishes his honestly, where I agree with him, his great coaching ability, because he is a great coach. He is doing really great things with Porto with little. Lost a lot of big players and still kept a competitive team with the fair play stuff. But I think when you have an attitude like that, I mean, anywhere in the world, Portugal, if anything, can get away with it a little bit more. If he were to put those hissy fits in England, he wouldn't last there very long. So I personally think, I don't know what you think, Mitch, is that's why he's not getting that full recognition, that crazy, like he's an ex-prodigy and whatever. It's just because of his attitude.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. But at the same time, I also think it's a little bit to do just in Portugal in general with, the way that Porto is kind of viewed. And it goes to that kind of point of that very controversial way that they kind of act sometimes. And an example is, I don't know if you heard about this, but there was almost, I think, close to 1,000 fans, Inter Milan fans, who were left outside of the stadium in the game.
Jeez.
They bought tickets, so the visiting area were sold out, but there were about 1,000 tickets that were sold to Inter Milan fans outside of the visiting area. And I guess before the game, there had been a meeting between Inter and Porto to discuss those 1,000 tickets, and Porto had guaranteed that they would allow safe passage for those fans into the stadium, and that they'd obviously be allowed to watch the games. They didn't. They actually let over 1,000 fans sit outside the stadium and did not allow them to enter the stadium. So Inter is actually launching some sort of, Makeisha, basically against Porto through UEFA, and that kind of came out after the game. But again, a little bit of stuff like that's not limited to Porto doing those type of things, but they're kind of a little bit more prone to that, and maybe sometimes that in general in Portugal, doesn't allow somebody like a Sérgio Conceição. And you could say, Mitch, that's bullshit because look at Jose Mourinho. It's just, but just a different caliber of coach, I think, too. When you're talking about a Mourinho versus a Conceição, obviously different.
Also being humble too, because you never hear Ruben Amorim, and he's been praised all over everywhere. Every time they talk about him being compared to Mourinho, anything, he shuts it down. Sometimes it's just the way you carry yourself too, right?
But not to just be negative, I do want to. This guy is
he's a great coach. He's a great coach.
He is a great coach. Inter was either they were really bad on today, or Porto were just ridiculously good. And Porto ridiculously good without Pep, without Otávio, two massive pieces of that team. They started with, and he always does this. He started, actually, João Mário was out as well. Who else was out? Yeah, Pep, João Mário, Otávio. I think those are the big ones that I can see here that he was missing. But he ended up going with Pepe at right back, which, again, despite him getting a red card at the end of the game, was a very good tactic.
Yeah.
He went with Grujic and Uribe in the middle. Grujic had an unbelievable game. Like, his ability to get the best out of it, and I think that's what he was trying to get at in the press conference, is his ability to get such an incredible performance out of a team that was missing so many of its key elements in such an important game against somebody like Inter, and he just doesn't feel like he's, given the appreciation and recognition that he kind of deserves for that.
100%. And like you just said earlier, he is an amazing coach. And we talked about many times that we'd like a coach like him coaching Portugal. But honestly, anywhere, in any field, in any job, you start pulling hissy fits, the poor me mentality. You can be the best salesman, you can be the best worker, or you're going to rub people the wrong way, man. And it's going to be hard to get that full credit.
Lose. He doesn't know how to lose. And I mean, that goes for the greatest of all time. Mourinho doesn't know how to lose either.
Yeah,
he doesn't take losses well.
Yeah, but Conceição is different level, man.
It is different.
Start spitting on players, fight mid-game,
start fight everybody,
trying to fight the coach. Missing press conferences. At least like Mourinho, nobody really likes to lose. He'll take his leg, but he'll show up. He won't. He does it in a way where it's a little bit different. This one just it's like a hissy fit. But again, I don't want to sit here and bash him. He's an amazing coach, and maybe that's his tactic and that passion that he could portray on the players.
Man. I think he's raw, man. That's who he is.
He's raw. And I think players know that.
And he doesn't know how to hide it. That's who he is. And he'll never change. And he's unapologetically him.
Yeah.
And that could be his downfall, but that's
why
just,
he's a good coach.
That's just the way it is. And I think exactly he's in the right place, because that is well accepted in Porto.
That's right.
Porto. That's the Porto mentality. It's very ranhos. It's very, and that's kind of where he belongs, kind of.
But I do want to talk a little bit more about how Porto played. without contradicting too much, Conceição, the way they played, the way they went on and dominated that game.
It's ridiculous.
It was amazing. Like, obviously, we're not Porto fans, and we have our things to say about them, but buddy, it was tough to see them to lose to that Inter team, because you know what, for those points for Portugal,
we needed
would have been huge, and it would have been crazy. The way the draws went, it would have been a Porto Benfica quarterfinal. I would have loved to see that, those two teams, because that would have guaranteed a Portuguese team no matter what in the semifinals. And to have those two rivalries, we know how hardcore it is. In the quarterfinal of a Champions League, fighting for a semifinal, those bragging rights and those games would have been. I would have loved to see that.
Would have been crazy.
Yeah,
would have been crazy. But I agree. Take nothing away. Porto deserved the result at home.
In both legs.
So it was unfortunate to see, especially from the, like you said, the standpoint of the UEFA standings. We really needed those points to try to edge out the Netherlands, to try to keep the spots, the Champions League spots, and it's looking like it might be tough to get Danny Fernandes chiming in.
What's
Great
going
to see
on?
you guys back. Thanks, buddy. Richie, when the ball doesn't go in, it doesn't matter how good the setup was. He's another Jorge Jesus. He'll never do anything special outside the home country. I think that's a little
harsh, but
I think that's
another guy that wears his hardest sleeve is Richie.
That's right, man.
You are who you are, buddy. It's okay.
We love you, buddy.
But change your name, the Eagle. But
Jorge Jesus definitely has that same fight to you.
Yeah,
right?
He
still he's definitely that same raça.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sérgio Conceição, I could see him going to Italy, because he's always had that connection with Italy. Where he played there.
You know where you could coach?
Lazio loves him. I could definitely see him going to Italy at some point.
You know what's a good team for him too? Who's Atletico. He'd do well.
Yes, yes, I could see him there too. Yeah.
That's
he's very. Him and Simeone are very similar to.
Yeah.
It's got to be a team that kind of has that mentality, that crazy passion, and that guy.
100%.
I agree. I could either see. I didn't think about that, but that could be a spot for him too. But I think he's good enough that he would do well wherever he.
Yes.
Honestly, I
really
do.
You know what's the thing too? I think he would change his ways if he played in England. I think he also does that. He would
change his ways, Christian, because the league would force him to change his ways. It's no different than Nuno Espírito Santo. Don't forget, Nuno Espírito Santo came from the same school. He's Portista, ele é ranhoso. He's got the same mentality. When he went to the EPL, he started doing shit and talking the same way he did in the Liga Portugal, and he got smacked with a £50,000 fine for saying some comment about a referee.
Yeah.
And that was it, man. The league forces you to change. You can't act a fool. You can't be trying to fight coaches at halftime in England. It doesn't happen. They'll fine you badly that they stamp that right out of the game. So the league itself would force him to change if he ever coached in England.
100%.
Anyway, moving on a little bit. Porto are traveling to Braga tomorrow.
What a game!
It's a massive clash for the Liga Portugal. There's 2 points separating Braga and Porto right now. So if Porto fail to get a win against Braga, and if Braga are able to win, os Guerreiros would go second place behind Benfica, a point ahead of Porto. So huge game tomorrow in Minho. That game is in Braga. So we'll stay tuned to that. Moving on, guys. Jumping back to the week prior, my Benfica took on Club Brugge. Na Luz, going into it, we had a 2-0 advantage. We ended up getting a 5-1 result in casa. Rafa, Ramos with a brace, João Mário, and David Neres completed the routing of Club Brugge. It was a big game for Benfica at home. Brugge wasn't really the strongest opponent. To be fair, Benfica dominated. They were completely in control of the game from start to finish. More of the same of what we've been seeing from Benfica. And this guy, Gonçalo Ramos, just another gem, man, of a performance. Both him, Rafa, Ramos, and João Mário were all in the Champions League Team of the Week. All of them had great performances. Good to see Rafa getting back into form as well after being out for a little bit from injury. João Mário continues to be just an absolute beast this year for Benfica. Mm-hmm. It was good performances all around. Grimaldo was really, really I mean, Grimaldo is just such a important player for us. He's so good. Yeah, and it was a convincing win for Benfica, and I think obviously we ended up getting Inter Milan in the draw.
You couldn't ask for better, man. Couldn't ask for better. Honestly.
Benfica taking on Inter Tuesday, April 11th for the first leg.
I think you guys are the favorites.
I think we are favorites. From what I saw in the games, and the couple games that I've seen from Inter this year in Serie A, and the games that I saw of them against Porto, I think we are definitely the favorites to take.
Oh, yeah, I think you guys are going through.
And we've got the first game at home. Because AC Milan also drew the first game, and because they obviously play at this, they share the San Siro, we ended up getting flipped, and we get the first game in the Luge in Lisbon. So that will be April 11th. Benfica kind of followed that up with a 3-0 win in Madeira against Marítimo, another convincing win. 8 points right now ahead of Porto. 15 games unbeaten.
Yeah, you guys are flying right now.
Flying.
Cake
And
ball.
this is going to be tough because I think that week, if I'm not mistaken, we play Porto right before. I'm just going to double check here. So we play Porto on April the 8th, and then we play Inter on the 11th. So it's gonna be a heavy week, heavy week. So it'll be interesting to see how Schmidt handles the lineup.
You know what? I think this game, if say Porto drop points, I can see. I mean, it's a rivalry. Don't get me wrong, but I can see some rotation in that game for Benfica. If Porto drops points,
Porto drops points,
I think. Well, how many points are they back now?
Right now, they are 8 points ahead.
8 points. So if they're 10 points back, I mean, if you have a big quarterfinal game against Inter, I can see some rotation, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like I said, to see how Roger Schmidt handles the lineup selection for Port ahead of the Inter game.
100%.
It's gonna be really, really interesting to see, because that's obviously gonna be a very intense game.
100%.
So fitness levels could be of concern, and 100%. Of course Otamendi is going to be out for that game, so that's a big loss for Benfica at the back. He's going to be out due to suspension because of the yellow card he picked up against Bruges. So that's going to be tough. Either Morato or Verissimo slotting in at the back for Benfica there. Potentially Morato. Verissimo still hasn't really been in too much form, but I think because of Otamendi being out, we could either see Morato or Verissimo getting some minutes in the Liga in the coming weeks, just to get them some frescura before the game against Inter. So we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, Christian, spotlight, buddy. Whew. Here we go. You ready, man?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Born ready.
Sporting was taking on the Gunners, first place in the EPL, on Thursday in the Europa League round of 16 at home in London.
What?
Oh my goodness.
A game.
What a game.
What a game.
What a game.
You know what? I say since the League Cup final against Porto, we lost. But the game we played against Porto, we dominated Porto. We lost 2-1. I think since that day, we got the ball running. Chemistry is finally getting. We're more grounded. We've been playing ball. And then again, the last loss we had again was Porto 2-1. Again, that game, posts all over them. Dominated again. Again, we lost, but that ripple effect from that second game, lost. We've been playing amazing football. St. Juice has been implemented back. The Omund has been taken off. Inacio, finally, welcome back, man. What he's been playing, insane. So, point being is we met Arsenal at a point finally where we were grounded, established, and with momentum and playing really good ball. The first leg against Arsenal, we drew 2-2. We could have won that game, man, easily. We had two really good legs. But that second game, man, we started losing by a goal by Xhaka. He did this celebration where he put his fingers like this. Pissed off, Sporting. But prior to that, we had possession. We had more possession than them in London, which, if I'm wrong, they're the second highest possession team in England with the ball. We outpossessed them. We went down. We had a little bit of hiccup that first half for about 30 minutes. Towards the end of the game, came at them. And then the second half, Sporting pulled out.
62nd minute.
That second half, that was the best soccer I've seen Sporting play in a very long time. Ball movement, turns, 1-2s, over the tops, chances created. We were all over them. Missed a couple of chances. Come at the 62nd minute, we win the ball back. We win the ball back in the midfield. Pot sees that Ramsdale, because he's like a keeper sweeper, goes up, takes like a half shot. It's not like he ran up to and shot. The ball was like a foot away from his foot, and he does this beautiful. If you haven't seen it, please go look at this goal. This lob power shot from half hits the slot perfectly and just turns the game on its head with one of the goals of the year. I think it's going to be the goal of the Champions League. Already one goal of the week. And then that being said, in the course of a week, we have 2 goals that are nominated for the Puskas Award.
I think they'll definitely be nominated for Puskas.
Yes.
The goal from Innocent.
Goal.
And the goal from Pot.
Yes. What a goal. Turned the game on its head. Right after that, Paulinho almost scored. Turned into a crazy game. Of course, Arsenal had their chances being the team that they are, but man,
Adon stood on his head.
Adon at the end of the game. This is the thing with Sporting. We have a lot of great prospects, a lot of great young players. Our bench, we don't have that it factor like a lot of teams, like teams like Benfica have in Porto, where they come off the bench and they can turn the game. We had like a Sugu that's 18.
Well, he gave that ball away. Oh my God, it just will cost you guys the game.
Yeah, our bench wasn't the best. So of course, in extra time they pressed us. But to win in the shootout with the lineup, because Potts went down with some muscle cramps. Edwards got subbed out. All of our main penalty shot takers were taken out, and we beat him with all defense players shooting and winning the penalty shot. The dance stood his head. What a victory! This is going to shotgun us forward with confidence. Shout out in this game. I know most of you didn't watch it. I'm telling you, Osum Diomand, the game he played, man. The maturity, the poise, it's almost like you guys have with Silva in the back. Like, when you see that player and the maturity, the levels that they have at such a young age, that's the comparable to him. He put on a game. Like, just
coming in, Coach was injured. So, I mean,
what a player.
Big shoes for him to fill in such an important game against such a huge team at that age to have performed
the game he had, man. It was the maturity level of a 32-year-old. It was like
that clearance at the end of the 90 minutes there. Oh my God.
Yeah. So our defensive line, honestly, I love Kovac. Kovac is a captain. Mm-hmm. He does things outside of just defense.
Oh, he's your best striker too, right?
But I'm telling you right now, we are. Here we go. These are those 3 at the back.
Yeah,
with the Nasi, Diomand, and Saint Just.
Saint Just had a good game too. Yeah,
Saint Just is not going to last very long in Sporting. He's been ridiculed with injuries, but
he's fast, man.
I could keep going on and on, but the one thing I'll take about this game, now we have Juventus. We might go out, but the thing that I've really noticed about this game is
what kind of attitude is that, man? You might go out. Fuck,
yeah,
you guys beat Arsenal, man.
I know, but the one thing that, as a Sporting fan and my fellow Sporting fans listening, that you could take out of this game is you finally seen Amorim's project there. Like, his first year he won the league, but that was just he took, like, now you're seeing his players that he brought in, his system. You see all these young players in this right spot. It's finally molding into position. Yeah. And if we can only let 1 or 2 players go out a year and we keep this almost like how hockey teams do it through the draft and through picks. If we could keep this young base, because it's all young players on Sporting, if we can hold this for 2, 3, 4 years and continue this going forward, we can see Sporting doing special things, which I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, Juve, they're beatable for sure. Obviously, if he could beat them in their Champions League game 4-3, they had a rough start to the year, but it's gotten better. Just looking at their results since the start of the new year, they have only lost 3 games. They lost 5-1 to Napoli, they lost 2-0 to Monza, and they lost 1-0 to Roma.
Yeah.
So they
Wanna
found a
hear a
little
fun
bit of
fact?
form here in the last couple of months, but I definitely think they're beatable, man.
You want to
They
hear
are
a fun
beatable.
fact? Because Juve got a 15-point deduction
Yes, yeah.
for sales. But if you were to not take that away,
Mhm.
they'd be second in the Premier
They'd be
in the Serie A,
second in
ahead
Serie
of Inter Milan.
ahead of Inter. Yeah,
That just shows you how great of a chance Benfica has to go to the semifinals.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy. And then Juve, like the last little bit, much like Sporting. Honestly, it's a lot like Sporting. They're projected to do really great things. They're a team more of players than an actual team. But I feel like the last little bit, they're finding their identity and they're getting grounded and be the perfect storm. So it should be a good game.
So the first leg will be on Thursday, April 13th in Turin.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how Sporting do. And it'll also be interesting to see if they're able to continue this run of form. Because one comment that Roberto did make after the game was he said he was very happy. Mas estava chateado because he felt that Sporting, he knows that they're capable of performances like this, but he's pissed that they're still sitting in fourth place in the league, knowing that they're capable of performances like this and that they haven't been able to translate this type of performance in the league on a more consistent basis.
I totally agree with you, but that's Amorim doing Amorim things. Like he's a very good talker. Like even after the first result, he's like, "Oh, is this 2-2 with Arsenal good results?" Like, we'll see if we could beat Boavista on the weekend. Then I'll say it's a good result. He's trying to, in his own way, in his own coaching way, to instill consistency. Even with players like Pot scored that crazy goal. What he said right away is like, "Yeah, he scored a beautiful goal, but he didn't have the best game. He can do better." Like that's how he's talking, and I think in a way it's motivating the players to do better. And but honestly, this is the thing. Sporting did play good throughout the year. Like we've lost games where we've it's not like we were getting outplayed like crazy. We completely deserved to lose. A lot of our big hiccups were at the back.
Yeah.
But now with St. Just back, St. Just has been huge. Kovac a little bit for Inacio had a little bit of a time there where he was very inconsistent. But now bringing in Diamond, St. Just, Isgaio hasn't been horrific anymore. Although he didn't make a mistake.
Hey man, he even scored in his penalty shot, man.
We've just been more solid at the back. Even up front, though, there's still room to grow because we're missing a lot of chances. A lot. Even at Edwards, he had a chance to put away the game.
I actually think Marcus Edwards was probably one of the worst players.
He was
for you guys. Honestly, I thought he should have been subbed up.
Me too.
Way before.
I think Fatou should have went on.
Yeah,
but anyway, I think we're trending. That being said, after everything, I think finally you see us trending in the right direction. And future's looking good. We just got to be consistent.
So Sporting will be taking on Santa Clara.
Yeah, 8 a.m.
Was that their next bet? Yeah. Santa Clara?
I think it's Sunday, yeah. Is
that right?
8 a.m. Edmonton time.
All right. Well, we'll see what they can do again. See if they can transfer some of that form.
Of course.
All right, guys. Moving over, switching gears to the SLB. Well, Christian, our buddy, Roberto Martinez.
That was a good impersonation. You know what, though? Even you got to give him credit because he's trying to learn Portuguese. Because most Spanish people, they do not even try. They just speak Spanish.
Video came out. Yeah, video came out. The Federação put out a video, kind of a day in the life of Roberto Martinez, and it was interesting. Showing him in Cidade Futebol, trying to learn Portuguese. He had a section of his day for Portuguese lessons. It was interesting to see kind of his setup and what he has for tracking players. And it was cool. It was cool to see. It was cool to see. Unfortunately, he didn't really convince me with this call up. So let's quickly run. We'll go through it. Let's quickly run through the SLB call up, starting with os guarda-redes. Diogo Costa, José Sá, and Rui Patricio. No really big surprises there. Defesas, this is where we start to get a little silly. Diogo Dalot, João Cancelo, Danilo Pereira, Nuno Mendes, Pep, Ruben Dias, António Silva, Gonçalo Inácio, Diogo Leite e Rafael Guerreiro. In the midfield, João Palhinha, Ruben Neves, Mateus Nunes, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, João Mário, Otávio Monteiro e Vitinha. And avançados, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Who? You got called up, man?
Gonçalo Ramos, João Félix, Rafael Leão e Diogo Jota. All right, let's start on the defesas. Roberto Martinez calls up 6 center backs for this game. So he's called up Danilo, who I think we can all safely say has transitioned from Trinco to center back. Danilo, Pep, Ruben Dias, António Silva, Gonçalo Inácio, which is great to see. Finally, a Sporting player cracked the lineup. It's been a while. Diogo Leite from Union Berlin. That's 6 center backs. And I know what you're going to say. He's more than likely going to try playing 3 at the back. So he wants to have at least one replacement for each. You're not going to, even if he is planning to go with 3 at the back, you're not realistically going to rotate all 3 center backs. Diogo Leite, to me, he just doesn't cut the mustard for this SLEÇÃO. He's been playing well. Don't get me wrong. He's been playing well at Union Berlin, but we left Pot at home. We left Florentino at home. We left Ricardo Horta at home. We left Nuno Santos at home. I just don't get that. I don't understand bringing up 6 center backs, even if you're planning to play 3 at the back. I don't understand. And if you are planning to play 3 at the back, meaning you're going to have wing backs, how the fuck do you not bring in Nuno Santos?
What I know, he's been playing lights out, and I feel like a player with his characteristics would be amazing as a
especially
backup
because he can transition to a winger. He is a winger, pure. He's been transformed.
And he can
into
score
a wing back.
too.
He can score. Look at the goals that he scored. It was ridiculous. Yeah. Right? Another Puskas worthy award-winning goal that he scored. Rabona, like, it's ridiculous. How do you leave?
And he has, sorry to interrupt, he has 7 goals in the league. You know, he's like
7 goals in the league.
7 goals from the left back.
So that I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. That's your defesas. I don't have any other issues with who he called up except for Diogo Leite. To me, Diogo Leite is not.
You missed one. I brought up in the chat yesterday.
Pep.
No, William Carvalho.
Oh, sorry, we're gonna jump ahead to Medius. You're talking about the big Ausências.
The big Ausências.
William, yeah.
He went from untouchable under Fernando Santos, like literally untouchable, ahead of Vitinhas, ahead of Mateus Nunes, ahead of you name it. He was the guy untouchable to not even getting called up. That was honestly, I like it. I like it. It's not that he's not a good player. I think he did play well before, but I feel like having Danilo there, such similar characteristics, and I know he's more he's a center back now. But if you did need that kind of player, you can step in and fill in that void. I was happy because the midfielders we have now, you know, it's time to grow.
So in the midfield, I don't really have any issues. The big issue I have here is one guy. Who do you think I have an issue with there? If you can guess, the one guy I've got an issue with.
Otávio?
Yeah. I've got an issue with Otávio because, again, of who he left at home. Let me just. Benfica just scored, by the way. Just got the update. I just want to run by here. Right now, Braga is sitting third place, 2 points behind Porto in the league. Ricardo Horta has 9 goals and 6 assists for Braga. Otávio, 4 goals and 5 assists. How do you justify bringing up Otávio over Horta?
How about Pot?
How do you justify bringing up Otávio over Pot? After the goal that Pot scored against Arsenal, one of the most historic wins in Sporting's history, arguably, no?
Yeah, 100%.
The guy scores a fucking screamer. How do you not reward, like, as a coach, that type of shit needs to be rewarded. How does he justify calling up Otávio, who I don't even know is match fit? He didn't play against Inter because of injury. So I don't even know that he's fit. So if there's even a question of fitness, how are you justifying calling Otávio over Horta or Pot? Strike one, like Richie likes to say.
Oh, Rich.
I don't get it.
Where's your family feud, Jeff?
Ramos 1-0, Benfica. FYI. I just don't get that. I really don't get that. Honestly, it's even if Richie's saying the list was made before the game, even if it was made, you can make changes. You can make changes. And he knew Otávio would have been a questionable prior to him making the list, regardless. And even if he wasn't, again, Ricardo Horta, 9 goals and 6 assists. Pot, let me pull up Pot here for a sec.
13 and 4 assists, I think.
Let me pull up Pot. Pot's got 12 goals and 6 assists. Again, how do you justify Otávio over Pot or Horta, man?
And that's a player, like that's him getting transitioned from winger to midfield, winger to midfield, winger to midfield. Like he hasn't had that. I mean, I know what you're saying. You can't call him over those players.
It doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my big beef. I think Florentino should have been there too. I think Florentino deserved to be there. I think because of the performances he's put in for Benfica, he absolutely deserved to be there, in my opinion. The other guy who is questionable, Diogo Jota, for me.
Yeah, I know.
Diogo Jota is coming off of an injury for Liverpool. He hasn't been in form. He hasn't been playing. He could have sat this one out. Again, I think if you take out Diogo Jota, take out Otávio, and take out Diogo Leite, you slot in Pot, Florentino, and Horta, or Pot, Florentino, and Nuno Santos.
Yeah.
Any one of those. Between Pot, Florentino, Horta, and Nuno Santos, to me, those 4 guys, at least 3 of them should have been there.
Yeah, 100%.
At least 3 of those guys should have been there. I think Nuno Santos arguably could have been left out, but Pot, Florentino, and Horta, in my opinion, should have absolutely been on this team. So
is there any more of this year, so? There has to be one more.
Well,
I'll give you a hint.
Well, he wasn't announcing. He should have been a fucking.
I'm surprised he didn't. Come on, Stuart.
All right, let's talk about it. We were waiting for
Sui. That's what it is.
Sui. Let's talk about it. Richie, you may want to turn the channel. Go watch Benfica. Go watch Benfica. I don't want to give you a fucking heart attack.
You guys can't tell. Mitch's eyes twitching already. He's already hit a nerve.
We talked about this before, whether or not Cristiano Ronaldo was going to get called up. And you made a good point. You said Roberto Martinez was never going to not call Ronaldo. His first order of business was never going to be to leave Ronaldo.
Could you imagine? What was it?
I can't stand seeing this guy on this list.
We know, man. Trust me. No way, man.
I just fucking can't. Like, he's playing at far. And please, man, please, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Ronaldo will always, in my opinion, be the GOAT. It has nothing to do with a lack of gratitude or a lack of appreciation for what the guy has done for Portugal and for sport and for our country. But the guy is past his time. He was arguably the worst player on our team in Qatar. And I don't think you can even argue that there was a single player who played worse than Ronaldo in Qatar. I don't think you can even make that argument. He was a liability in Qatar. And if anybody wants to challenge me on that, I will say bring it. He was a fucking liability. On and off the field, he was a liability for our team in Qatar. And I don't think you can make that argument. He was. What he brought outside the field, what he brought on the field, he was a liability for this.
Put it up what Richie said.
No, Cancelo was not worse.
So it was pretty bad.
Cancelo was bad, but he wasn't worse.
I think he's worse now.
He was not worse than Ronaldo at the World Cup.
No. Now. Not at the World Cup.
If he's calling Pep and Ron because he wants them in the leadership roles in the locker room, young players will always benefit from having these legends around.
Yeah.
I think there's different leaders that need to take the role of legends in the SLEÇÃO. Bruno Fernandes being one of them. We don't need 38-year-old legends anymore. The legend needs to move on because now Ronaldo is taking the place of a guy like a Pot or a Horta who deserve to be there and today bring more to the SLEÇÃO as an attacking threat than Ronaldo. You disagree?
I agree with pretty much everything you said, even as a diehard Ronaldo fan as I am. I was even showing you a thing I want to buy from him. Okay, I'm a diehard fan, and yes, I'm a little bit biased. I do agree in that World Cup. Yeah, he brought out shit. He did that, whatever. But time has passed since then. We all know the year he had. Whether you agree that's the reason or not, that's up for debate. We could be here all for 3 hours discussing that. This is my lens that I'm seeing. I think I know it's Al Nassr and I know it's the Saudi League. Trust me, I get it. But us understanding the game, we like those little moments where he was one-on-one with the goalie or he'd shoot over the net or his confidence was jaded a little bit. He was a little bit out of character on the field. Those little he's got that back a little bit. Yes, it's a weak league, I know. But I'm talking about those one-touch shots, those the headers, those little minute details that doesn't matter what league you're in. That finishing is finishing. He's got a little bit of that back. I think he needs another chance because
Christian, my dad used to have a game recorded of Eusebio playing in an all-star game in Toronto when he was in his late 50s. And the guy put the ball in between someone's legs and chipped a keeper.
Yeah.
Just because these guys are great. They don't lose their talent overnight. Ronaldo's not going to lose his talent overnight. He's the greatest player of all time. He's obviously still going to be able to put the ball in the back of the net, especially against the opposition he's playing in Saudi.
He did do it against PSG, though. I know it's a friendly game. I know.
It's a friendly, Christian.
I know.
It's a friendly, man.
I'm with you. Oh, there he is.
This is who he's playing against, man.
I know.
This is who he's scoring against,
I
man.
know,
Estamos
but
aqui a
I'm
brincar,
saying-
okay?
Be honest, okay? Be honest. Be honest. Do you think it would have been the? I know it's tough, but do you really think the best avenue right now? You got to put it this way: you're in a position where you're a new coach. Not you're established. You're Portuguese. You've been watching soccer your life. If you're a brand new coach, like Spanish coach, you're already at a disadvantage. You're gonna go there, and you're not gonna call Ronaldo right now.
Here's what I would do.
Wait, one more thing before you go. I think the role that's in discussion and that you can make a valid argument for is what role is he gonna have on the national team? Starter, I don't think he's there anymore, and that's a lot for me to say. Can he start? Will I be against it? Probably not. But if you want to take that position where it's like, hey, this is your role now. You're a leadership role. You're going to take a step back. You're going to come in, what you brought a lot about, and rightfully so, in the World Cup. You're going to come in, but it has to be communicated with him. If it's that stance, I'm okay with it.
We don't have enough spots. We don't have enough spots on the roster for leadership roles.
Brody, they brought 6 center backs.
Exactly.
Scratch a couple off.
Exactly.
Scratch
we don't
a couple
have enough
off, man.
spots to be sitting there as a leadership role, man.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, the longer the longer he's there, the longer guys like Bruno Fernandes, who are natural born leaders, and you want to talk about a leader, look at the role that Bruno Fernandes has played since Ronaldo's departure from Man United. You want to talk about a guy who is a leader and who was unable to take the spotlight and shine because of Ronaldo being there. Look no further than the example of Manchester United and how Manchester United have performed since Ronaldo has left, and the leadership role that Bruno Fernandes has taken and the impact that Bruno Fernandes has had on the team since Ronaldo has left.
Yeah. There's been other variables
he needs
too,
to take that role in the Seleção. And as long as Ronaldo is there, Bruno Fernandes will not be able to take and make that same impact on the Seleção like he's done at United. It's time for Ronaldo to go. If I was Roberto Martinez, I would have picked up the phone and I would have said, Cristiano, let me know which game you'd like to be your farewell match.
That's deep, man. See, no, I'm not there.
Because I'm not going to call you up. And I don't think you want that. So let me know which game you'd like it to be your farewell.
That's where you lost me. You had me up until there.
How else do you deal with it, Christian?
He's a new coach. That's where when you have a new leadership role that comes in. This is my lens. That's why you have to have these hard conversations. You got to know how to deal with these personalities. If these are the avenues that you want to go,
he's not on a fucking salary. He doesn't have to deal with that personality.
I know, but come on, let's call it how it is. He's the biggest image in Portuguese history that's ever been. Anybody Portuguese, he's the biggest persona, the biggest thing that ever come out of Portugal ever.
Yes.
Hands down. So he at least deserves, you need to have a conversation. He needs to, as a new coach, you need to try to deal with these things. He needs to see it for himself. Then, if he sees that it's a liability, if he sees that it actually is affecting this Seleção, it could be, but I'm just saying, if with his own eyes as a coach in that position, then you have those difficult conversations. Like, listen, Christian, we appreciate, like you just said, everything you did. You're this, you're that, you're this, but this is where we're going forward. Can you take this role? Can you do this? Is this your last tournament? This is where we need to grow as a national team. Blah, blah, blah. You have those conversations the right way.
The problem is, this is going to start creating division in the locker room because you're going to have guys who are hardcore Ronaldo fans and hardcore Team Ronaldo. And then you're going to have guys who are best friends with Pot.
Yeah.
And see that Pot scored a Puskas-worthy goal against Arsenal. with a ridiculous chip from half, right? And Ronaldo, who's clowning around in the Saudi league, is there and Pot's not. That's the problem. That's the issue. And then you're going to have guys who are going to say, man, Ronaldo is the one who should be at home. And then you're going to have guys who are on your team saying, no, you can't send him home. And guys are going to say, well, he's taking the spot of somebody like a Pot or a Horta who could legitimately come here and continue to put the ball in the back of the net.
No, I'm with you. Okay, but
and that's the problem, is you're going to start to create that divisiveness. And at some point, this has to be dealt with. And I just don't know. I don't know how Roberto Martinez is going to go about it. All I know is that as long as Ronaldo, in my opinion, at this point, from what we've seen from his personality and from what we've seen from his performance, the longer he is a part of our SLEÇÃO, it's, in my opinion, it's a liability. He is more of a hindrance to us than he is a help.
See, but like, okay.
And that's my opinion.
No, it's fair. It's fair. It's a valid opinion. I think both of this is why it's so divisive. It's such a divisive topic because you can argue both sides. But to switch the narrative a little bit, what does Ronaldo have to do to get that respect from you that you can see him be an asset to the national team? Because right now, from what I'm understanding, he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he doesn't score in the Saudi League, it's like, see, he can't even do it in the Saudi League.
He's not scoring in the Saudi League, man.
If he scores,
he scored 4 goals in one game against Abda Makaluku, and we're
whatever. I'm saying if he scores 4 goals a game all the time, it's a weak league. All I'm trying to say is he's in a lose-lose right now. If he scores, it's because it's against that goalie. If he doesn't score, it's because he's in a weak league. I'm just asking you, what would he? Is he completely written off?
Have you watched the game?
Yes. But I'm asking you something.
Okay.
What would he have to do, though? What would he have to do?
If he was pounding in 5 to 6 goals a game.
Holy shit.
Christian, have you seen the opposition, man?
Yeah,
have you seen these guys, man?
He still has a shit team. Yes, Talishka, that's a really good player, but he has a shit team too, man. Okay, I'm just saying. Don't shy away from. I'll create a little box, okay? I'm just saying, what does he have to do?
You know what? Okay.
To get that spot. Okay. That's all I'm asking.
You know what? What he would have to do is honest, and I'm being all joking aside. He would have to show off the field that he's become a better person and that he's a better leader. Okay. The shit that he's still doing. Did you see what he did the other game?
Yeah.
Fucking, they're winning 3-0. Referee blows the whistle for halftime. The guy picks up the ball and boots it into the stands, and he tells them,
"They're pissed too."
Come on, Christian, man. The guy's got a shitty attitude, man. He's got a shitty attitude, and he's got to change that, man. That's not what the young kids. That's not the example for young kids, man. Like, you want to talk about he's coming in there to be a leader? That's the type of shit. That's what your captain's doing, having a hissy fit in the middle of the field and booting the ball into the stands.
To be fair,
I never saw Figo do that. It's a lot. I've never, ever in my life saw Figo do that. Ever.
To be fair, though, Bruno Fernandes ain't much better. Bruno Fernandes is a big fucking hissy.
He's another one. But guess what? Guess who he played with for how many years? Where did he learn it from? He's
our next captain. I love this.
Honestly, man, he's got to be better. If he's going to be there as a leader, then he has to show that he can be a leader. He's got to show it's not ripping off the captain's armband and throwing it on the ground because you're pissed. He's got a shitty attitude, man. And that's why I'm saying if he's going to be there as a leader, then he has to show leadership qualities that you're going to want these young kids to learn from. And to me, to have a guy there to be a leader and he's a captain on the field and he's having hissy fits and he's throwing his captain armband off and throwing it on the ground and all this bullshit, to me, that's not a leader. That's not a leader, and that's not who I want my young players learning from. And that's not the attitude and the antics that I want my young players being exposed to. So if he's not there to put the ball in the back of the net and he's there to be a leader, then he needs to show leadership qualities.
No. Okay.
But that's the way I see it. The problem is what you said. He's too big. He's too big of a personality that the Seleção doesn't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to stick handle this situation because it's too much of a delicate situation because you can't kick him out. You're right. You can't kick him out. He's too big. You can't kick him out. You literally have to wait for him to make the decision to want to leave. And he's not going to want to do that until he tries to win another trophy because his ego is too big for that.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm at the stage, though.
I don't think he leaves, in my opinion.
He plays the Euro.
He's going to the Euro.
Yeah, he's going to the Euro.
In my opinion, if Roberto Martinez does not remove him from the Seleção, he's going to the Euro.
I think even the next World Cup. You're going to have gray hairs, man.
Again, it comes down to and this is probably not going to be the best two games because we're playing Liechtenstein and Luxembourg. So I mean, it's weak opposition. Ronaldo could very well come on there and bang in a couple of goals because he's kind of used to playing against that type of opposition right now. But the other question is, so he's there. There's nothing we can do about it. He's there. So since he's there, is he starting? Like, is he taking the spot of Gonçalo Ramos right now?
That's what I'm saying. That's where I think, because realistically, we can say what's best and what's not best. He's going to get called up no matter who's there, unless it's you. He's going to get called up. Okay, let's call it how it is. He's no matter what going to get called up. The issue that we need to be really breaking down is if he starts now. That's what's going to make or break Roberto Martinez. That's where I think is that little ground where he's going to have to work through. Because like you said, Gonçalo Ramos, you can't take him off. So can he play left side?
Oh, this one. All right, Adam's telling me to highlight a comment here. We all seen this coming years ago. He's going to be the 15 to 20 minute guy now. We need a goal. He comes on. He must accept his new role. If he accepts it.
Yeah. That's where you can make those. That's what I'm saying. You got to give him the last dance, essentially. You got as a new coach. If you're Fernando Santos, it's different. If you're a new coach, that's not how you want to start, man. But
one more comment here.
Oh man,
3-0. Benfica.
Oh God.
You know what? I'm glad we're talking about this because 3-0 right now at home. João Mario. Man, João Mario, how good has João Mario been? And how does so kind of stepping away from the Ronaldo talk right now. Let's talk a little bit about how the Seleção would line up. Let's talk a little bit about how the Seleção would line up if you are going with 3 at the back, which it seems like Roberto Martinez
with his call-ups
is thinking about. And he even said it in his press conference that he feels like the team needs the ability to kind of transition from 3 at the back to 4 and whatnot. So if we are going with 3 at the back, Christian, how are you lining up against Liechtenstein or Luxembourg? What does your lineup look like if we're 3 at the back?
So this is gonna be complicated. I picked my best 11, but obviously if you're playing Liechtenstein, we can go in a little bit more of attacking role, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just give you my best 11. That's the best I can do, because if you're gonna start getting into like, if we play this team, I'll do this. We'll be here all day. I think our best 11, in my opinion, with like you said, 3 at the back, would be Menj Inácio, because he's a left-footed defenseman. That's his role on Sporting. He plays with a 3 center back. I don't think there's a better player with this system than Inácio for that position. Diaz, Silva, Cancelo, and then Costa at the back. And then my holding, I think the best Trinco, the Portuguese Trinco right now is Palhinha. Again, if you want to implement Neves in this game, I'd be okay with it because we are going to be more attacking. So maybe for Liechtenstein, maybe Neves in this position. But again, my best 11. Palhinha, Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, you're talking about his leadership qualities. I think he has got to play. Up front, I'd go Gonçalo Ramos, Bernardo Silva. Here I had Potts, but he didn't call him up. This is where you're going to fully disagree with me. I'd play Cristiano Ronaldo as a higher up left striker, like just behind Gonçalo Ramos. So that'd be my starting 11. How about you?
I would go with Costa in net, Inácio Dias and Silva at the back, Menz as left wing back, Cancelo as your right wing back. I'd put Neves, Ruben Neves,
for this game
in the center of the park, especially because if you are playing with 3 at the back, I think he's very used to playing that system with Wolves. He's played that system for years. What's that?
Palhinha did too with Sporting.
Palhinha did too. I think Neves is a little bit more attack minded. Yes. And he brings a little bit more in this. I've talked a lot about this. I would actually love to see a formation in a 4-5-1 with Neves and Palhinha in the middle, because I think they complement each other a lot better. I don't think it's one or over the other. I think Neves and Palhinha could do wonders in the middle of the park, but with this particular, it doesn't really work to have them both there. So I would put Neves in the middle. Up just ahead of Neves, I would put João Mário, Bruno Fernandes, and João Felix. You could alternate Felix with Bernardo Silva in that role. But I would maybe go with Felix and then Gonçalo Ramos up front.
That's a nice team. Mostly similar. I just have a couple different with Neves and.
But I would definitely, I definitely think João Mário deserves a spot in the starting 11 based on his performance, and especially if you're going to go with Gonçalo Ramos in there, I think that they have linked up very nicely for Benfica this year, and I think keeping that chemistry in the SELEÇÃO would be useful. I think Ramos is the undisputed starter as a striker for us. Yes. Whether you're playing with one guy up front or 2, I think he's the undisputed striker up front for us.
I got something to bring up, and I'm really, really surprised. So if you guys watched the press conference, one of the first questions Roberto Martinez was asked was, why was Rafa out? And usually coaches just put it aside, but he chose to go in depth. He's like, guys, I called him. I talked to him on the phone. I tried to convince him. I'm paraphrasing. Obviously, he didn't go into this much detail, but this is exactly what happened. He's like, I called him, tried to convince him to come to the national team, and he was adamant about not coming. So I did try. It's in his hands. He's still standing behind what he said, and he does not want to play. So now I'm starting to think that, is it just Fernando Santos, or did something happen on the team, or what's going on? Because, I mean, I never like to call a player that turned down the national team just because of what it represents. I mean, it's happened before. We've touched base about this in other podcasts, but
so I'm gonna.
That's a huge loss for us because he's a man in form. We have that chemistry. A lot of the best national teams that win tournaments, a lot of the players are on the same exact team, so that chemistry would have been there. Why do you think he's continuing to turn it down? He's at his prime.
One word. Otávio.
Yeah?
I'm going to give you I'm going to read to you what Otávio said recently about being called up for Portugal and being asked whether or not he regretted being called up for Portugal. Okay. So he said, and I'm going to say this in Portuguese and I'll kind of translate it. Não me arrependo nem bocadinho. No, I don't regret it, not even a little bit. Tudo que eu fiz foi de acordo com a minha própria vontade. Everything I did was on my own accord. Ciente de tudo e mesmo sabendo que em Portugal muita gente seria contra, como acontece em Lisboa. Knowing that a lot of people in Portugal would be against it, like what happens in Lisbon. Otavio's mentality and the type of person that he is, bringing up como acontece em Lisboa. What does Lisboa have anything to do with what we're talking about? This mentality that against Benfica, or that Benfiquistas are against him, or whatever the case may be, is, I think, exactly why Rafa said no. And I've told you this before, my theory on it, of the timing that Otavio got called to the Seleção and the form that he was in versus the form that Rafa was in, and the fact that they overlooked Rafa, who was a Euro winner, who was in better form, who, in my opinion, is a much better player than Otavio. And they overlooked Rafa. I think Rafa's just done, man. And he's saying if the Seleção wants to bring in Brazilian-born players and wants to choose Brazilian-born players over Portuguese-born players who are better, I don't want to be a part of it. And if that's his mentality, and I don't know, this is just my theory on it. And if he sees that they're going to continue to call up guys like Otavio, and we even talked about, and nothing to do with, he's Portuguese now. I mean, it is what it is. But even him being, even if he was Portuguese born, I would still take Horta and Pot over Otavio.
Oh, of course.
But put yourself in somebody like Pot's position. How do you feel? You're Pot. You've got more goals than Otavio.
Well,
You've got more assists than Otavio in the league. And Otavio gets called over you.
Bang on, Mitch. Political call-ups because of Pinta Costa.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're Pot right now, how do you feel?
Oh, he's upset. 100%. How
do you feel about not only the fact that you're a better player, you've got better numbers, you've got better stats, you got more goals, you got more assists.
You won the scoring race already.
And you're Pot, you just scored a banger against Arsenal, the first place team in the EPL to take Sporting into the quarterfinals. And Otavio, who is a Brazilian born, got chosen over you. And you wonder why Rafa wants to stay home. Then you wonder. And if I was Rafa, honestly, I might even say the same thing. I might be like, you know what, guys? If that's the route you guys want to go, if that's the decisions you guys want to make, because you can't say that you're choosing the best players. So, and then you wonder why Rafa doesn't want to come back. I personally think that that's why Rafa refuses to come back to Seleção.
I mean, it makes sense. It does make sense.
That's my own personal opinion on it. And again, this is nothing against bringing in Brazilian-born players to the Seleção, as long as it's merited. If I have no problem Otavio being Portuguese and Otavio being called up to the Seleção, if he deserves it over every other player, no problem. Deco, Pep, man, Pep is one of the greatest center backs that's ever put a Portugal jersey on. He spent so many years in Portugal. He became Portuguese. We called him up. There wasn't a better Portuguese-born center back that you could call up over Pep. He deserved it every day of the week. He was playing for Real Madrid. He was winning Champions Leagues. That guy, 100. And from the day that he became Brazilian, I still remember this. Having this conversation, that guy would belch out our national anthem, man. Yeah, he felt Portuguese. I have no problem with a Brazilian-born player playing for Portugal as long as he deserves to be there. No problem. But when you're calling up Otavio over a guy like Potter, a guy like Horta, Why is he being called up? Doesn't make sense to me. This is where Richie was saying it's politics. And if a guy like Rafa is looking at that saying, look, man, you're making guys Portuguese who are Brazilian, and then you're calling them up over guys who are Portuguese and deserve to be called up. It's not right. And I agree with that. If Otavio was scoring 10 more goals and assists more than Rafa and Horta, and he was that much better of a player, you can't argue with it, man. It's no different than Pedro Barbosa being pissed that Deco was called over him. Just as an example, right? Two similar guys, similar positions. You can't compare Deco and Pedro Barbosa, right? I mean, Pedro Barbosa was great. Don't get me wrong. But Deco, another level, right? That's not the case with Otavio and Rafa or Otavio and Horta. And the fact that they're continuing to choose Otavio over them, even though they're better and have the higher stats, then you wonder why these guys are pissed.
That's tough.
Again, it's just my opinion on it. That's my thoughts on it. But we will see. We will see what happens with this lesson. We will see how Martinez chooses to line up against Luxembourg and Liechtenstein. And we'll see what kind of Bola.
What's your score predictions?
I don't know. It's gonna be. I think it'll be 4-5 nothing in both games.
Well, yeah, I hope so.
That's
Luxembourg. You know what though? Luxembourg's not the team of old. Obviously, we're the favorites and stuff, but I don't think they're like we walk in there and.
You know what? You're right. They've got that player. He plays in the Saudi league.
Yes.
With
he's
Ron.
good.
He's good, man.
He's actually good.
He's that guy's. I think he's up for a Ballon d'Or next year.
If he gets picked over Ron, I'll be pissed. Oh God.
All right, guys. We're running out of time. We're past the hour mark, and I want to go catch the second half of the Benfica game. So, thank you guys for tuning in. João Felix, also just a quick note, just scored his first goal for Chelsea against Everton. So good to see João Felix.
Thing.
What's that?
Do you think one more thing? You think we're gonna have a Super Cup with Benfica Sporting?
Can you imagine?
That'd be amazing.
Can you imagine? Calma. Calmax, okay?
That'd be
one step at a time.
A Super Cup. That'd be crazy.
One step at a time.
Love you too, buddy. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys. Love you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. All the best. Força Portugal, Força Benfica, Força Sporting in Europe. As much as we bust balls, I like to see the obviously it's good to see the Portuguese teams moving on in Europe. So
100%.
All right, brother. Thanks for tuning in, boys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ciao.
Love.